Welcome to FUNC YOU UP, the podcast that gives you the best of functional medicine, nutrition, and wellness in 8 minutes or less.
Hi everyone, welcome to FUNC YOU UP. I'm Samantha Wineke, functional medicine health coach.
This is Michelle Miller, clinical nutritionist.
Michelle, have you ever felt in your life like your brain just wasn't working perfectly?
Oh, you must mean brain fog.
Yeah, have you ever felt a little foggy?
Absolutely. So today we're going to unpack brain fog, what it is, what it feels like, and some possible triggers of why this happens.
Yeah, how do we typically try to figure out what the root cause of this is?
So let's describe what brain fog is. It's an interesting idea because it kind of feels like things are just foggy. Maybe you're not processing things as quickly, this lack of clarity, inability to focus. How has this manifested for you in the past?
For me, it feels like I don't have the ability to kind of critically think, right? I can't complete a thought process very well.
Yeah. I think I've seen this in ways of like inability to find words, or I can't think through like a complex thought. I get kind of lost, or like just a wall goes up. It takes too much like brain power to deal with whatever I'm trying to deal with.
Like I've got a short attention span.
It's interesting too. I think a lot of our clients that start to work with us, this might not be listed as one of their goals. And, a few months in, they'll say, I didn't realize that I was walking around with brain fog because that was my normal. That was my baseline.
Totally. Sometimes you don't realize you even have it.
Absolutely.
Until it's lifted.
So this idea of like a slower response time, lack of like brain power, stamina, and really being able to have just like very clear brain, very clear thoughts, and the ability to... Also, I think this could affect memory a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. Like recall time?
Exactly, yeah. So what causes this? What are the triggers? It's interesting because think of this as there's two types of inflammation. There's a type of inflammation where if you pinched yourself, you would see it would be red and kind of swollen in that area, but then it would go away after a period of time. That's acute inflammation. Chronic inflammation is this lower level inflammation where you can't really point to it, but it's kind of a slow roll. Eventually starts, and it is a slow roll out, kind of that fog rolling out. That's how I would describe brain fog, is inflammation in the brain where it slowly builds up over time. Some days could be better, worse than others. And figuring out what are the things that are creating or adding to this type of inflammation that could allow this brain fog to roll out.
Yeah, and I think there are 5 kind of pillars that we look through to kind of try to figure out what could be the root cause of what's happening here. And it could be multiple. It could be a little bit here, a little bit there, and before you know it, those add up to give you that brain fog feeling.
You got it.
So the first one we want to run through is your dietary choices. And I know we talk a lot about this. It's so important. So it could be that you're eating certain foods that can be kind of inflammatory for your brain. So whether that is too much processed sugars or too many processed foods and carbs, things like that. What do you typically see, Michelle?
Well, I know we've talked about in previous episodes the main inflammatory foods. So I definitely think just first and foremost, the gluten, the dairy, the soy, the sugar, the corn, those are big ones. After that, you also want to think about things like chemicals that are in our food products, artificial coloring, artificial sweeteners. Those can be neuroexcitatory foods, which is not necessarily a good thing. Mm-hmm. And just also the way that we provide nutrition to ourselves to keep even our blood sugars stable, getting glucose to the brain, making sure you're getting that type of nutrition to the brain so it can even function properly. It's getting enough fuel throughout the day too. Mm-hmm. Something basic like water. If you're dehydrated, I mean, your brain is made up of water. So if you're dehydrated, how is that affecting your thoughts?
Your body or your brain's also made of fat if you're not eating enough healthy fats.
Bingo. I love that. That's huge. Right. If maybe you're having enough fats, but it's not the right type. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's kind of an essential fatty acid deficiency and you really need to get those good healthy fats up. And then with, different nutrition, different vitamins, minerals, micronutrients, not getting enough of those, having deficiencies in the diet can also, how can you expect your brain, this very complex organ, to work properly if it's not getting the right type of fuel?
Right. And you're going to get those from your colorful vegetables. So all these different phytonutrients, antioxidants. You're going to get that from, your body's going to be able to clean itself out through the fiber in different vegetables. I mean, you really need that plant-based diet.
Absolutely. And I think also one area that we really dive into a lot with our clients is once we've covered all of those elements of diet and what could be triggering brain inflammation or brain fog, then we want to look into, does this individual have any specific type of food sensitivity that's maybe unique to them? But like, let's say it's hazelnuts, right? Like hazelnuts might be fine for me, but hazelnuts could create brain fog and inflammation for Samantha. Yeah. So really looking into testing and doing some elimination diets to experiment with any type of food that could be a trigger. It doesn't necessarily have to be one of the like fearful 5 inflammatory foods.
Absolutely. Every body is different.
I would also say, I really want you to speak to this because you have a lot of experience with this, but your brain does this. There's something called the glymphatic system, which is your brain's way of detoxing while you sleep. It's one of the reasons why sleep is so essential, but it really detoxes at night. So I want you to speak a little bit about just, where inadequate sleep can play a role with brain fog.
Yeah, this can have a huge impact. So sleep is your body's time to rest and restore and detoxify, and you need really that different types of sleep too, and you need it to be complete sleep. So many times we see clients and maybe they're waking up several times throughout the night, or they're not getting enough hours, or it's not the right type of sleep. So we want to make sure that you're really getting that adequate amount and type of sleep.
I love to also work with clients making sure they're falling asleep, they're staying asleep, and how can we track those? So I know you've talked about the Aura Ring before, different like apps like Sleep Cycle are good ways to track that too. It was great when a lot of the Fitbits first came out and people were tracking their sleep, and they're looking back and thinking, holy cow, I was in bed for 8 hours, but I only slept for 4 hours. Like, that's not efficient sleep. That's what Samantha means.
And then the other thing you want to think about is stress, which kind of goes hand in hand with it, right? So if you're really stressed out, you're really flooding your body with those different stress hormones.
Yeah, I mean, you think about not even your neurotransmitters, but also even just cortisol, how that affects your cognition, your inability to focus. Cortisol is a fight or flight response hormone. It's there to protect you. So you lose your ability to think creatively if you're in a cortisone driven state. The fire alarm went off right now, our cortisol would skyrocket, and we would very quickly be able to think, how can we escape this situation? Our vision would change. But maybe I'm in a meeting and I need to be thinking creatively. I don't want my cortisol to be high. I'm not going to be able to be accessing different parts of my brain.
Yeah, accessing the creative brain, especially.
Now, the 5th pillar we often talk about is the toxin burden or toxic load on our system. And this does play a role with our detox systems. And I know I've talked a lot about liver detoxification pathways and the different phases of that. But there are many things that can put a toxic burden on our body, and that can also then indirectly affect our brain function.
Absolutely. Whether it's something like we've talked before about things like BPA, or whether it's heavy metals, so many different factors.
It's interesting too. We have a set of blood work in different test panels that we'll order with our clients, and heavy metal testing is now becoming more popular, especially with clients who have frequent migraines, frequent headaches, brain fog, a lot of these brain or, cognition. Yeah, these kind of like neuroinflammatory conditions. We often want to look into those because how your body's not going to be able to function well if you're really focusing on these toxic burden. You're trying to maximize handling that in the system. Other areas of the body are going to shut down a little bit.
And I think we might have skipped our favorite one, my favorite one. Gut permeability.
You're totally right.
The gut. So that's one of the big ones we look at too, because we've talked before about different foods that this can kind of happen with, but basically if you've got a permeable gut lining, you're really causing that inflammation in the body, but in the brain.
What's that mean? A permeable gut lining.
Good point. So basically you're supposed to have these tight junctions in your gut, and certain vitamins and minerals are supposed to get in the bloodstream, but if those junctions have too many gaps in between them, larger particles can get through, food particles can get through, and then your body will start treating those like they are invaders, and they start attacking them, creating this inflammation.
Exactly. You think of you think of a wall, and let's say it's a fence, okay? There's like holes in the fence, and you can put, you could put food through the fence, and that's how you can get nutrition to the other side. But if you start breaking through that fence and you make one big hole so you can climb through, and you're not supposed to be on the other side, the immune system's going to say, hey, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be over here, and it's going to attack it. Mm-hmm. So this idea of gut inflammation, increasing the holes in that gut lining, things getting through that gut lining that shouldn't be getting through, is triggering whole body inflammation. And there's this really delicate relationship between the gut and the brain, and we call it the gut-brain connection. And so if there's gut inflammation, then that can automatically trigger brain inflammation. We should do a whole talk just on this.
Yeah, we should.
This is an exciting topic. So now you've heard us talk about the 5 main areas we would want to look into for brain fog, all the different elements of diet and food in your diet, the role of gut function, gut inflammation, gut permeability, sleep, stress, and the toxic burden, all of these things affecting triggers that can cause inflammation and lead to brain fog.
So if you have any more questions for us, we'll definitely dive a little bit deeper into the gut permeability, but anything else that comes up for you, just give us an email at funkyouup@physiologicnyc.com, and we'll answer it next time.
We'll see you next time.
Welcome to FUNC YOU UP, the podcast that gives you the best of functional medicine, nutrition, and wellness in 8 minutes or less.